Hello everyone, my name is Wayne Supernova, and welcome back to the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. In the last episode, we finished off a summation examination and found out that Mr. Fairplay, in the subsequent cross-examination, is hiding something. He pretty much said that he saw Mr. McGilded stab the victim and he had blood all over both of his hands, but as you see in the gloves that were submitted to the court record, there's only blood on the right one. So, we are going to prove that he has an ulterior motive right now. Something to show this man has a compelling reason to lie in his testimony. Oh, I have evidence. My lord. Yes, counsel? The defense is ready to present evidence. By Jove, are you sure? Yes, evidence that will clearly demonstrate why Mr. Fairplay had a reason to lie in his testimony. Gah! Very well. I hereby call on the defense to present its evidence. The evidence that demonstrates a motive for the witness's alleged deception of the court. It's the debtor's ledger, because it says among the defendant's list of debtors is Bruce Fairplay, who would have been due to repay his loan imminently.
Take that!
This is a list of the debtors who owe money to Mr. McGilded. Yes, a list of innocent victims crippled by the accused's extortion. The point is, among the names of these debtors is your name, Mr. Bruce Fairplay. Ugh. What? Mr. Fairplay, are you currently indebted financially to the accused? No. Well, it's barely worth being called a debt. According to this ledger, you owe 20 guineas. Not an inconsiderable sum of money, wouldn't you say? Well, what of it? Let's suppose Mr. McGilded were to be found guilty of murder. What would become your debt in that case? These documents state that the loan agreement is forged between two individual parties. Therefore, were the creditor, the defendant here, to be sentenced to a capital punishment, all outstanding debts which were owed to him would be annulled. They would cease to exist. Cease to exist? Mr. Fairplay, is it not the case that you claimed in your testimony to have seen something you never in fact saw in a devious attempt to annul your debt of 20 guineas to the defendant? Oh. Ah! Order! Mr. Bruce Fairplay! Yes, my lord. I don't know why you went Austrian there. That hurt my throat. Let me ask you again, and be aware that your answer may have most serious implications upon your future, sir. Did you or did you not see the precise moment in time at which the defendant is alleged to have thrust a knife into the victim? Your silence speaks volumes. You did not tell the truth in your testimony. Alright, now let's not make a melodrama out of this. Perhaps I did overstate the truth a pinch. A pinch? But it makes no difference. I definitely remember seeing blood on McGilded's hands. Both of them. Objection! And yet, only one of the defendant's gloves, which we have here as evidence, is stained. So you keep saying. I wonder if I might be allowed to speak, sir. Go ahead, Mr. First. Well, the thing is, I think I remember seeing it myself as it happens. Seeing what? The blood, sir, on the assailant's hands. I think, yes. I'm almost sure that it was on both of his hands, not just one. What? What? Dude, this isn't a bad thing. That means that it couldn't have been Mr. McGilded. It would appear that we're going to need further testimony from all you witnesses. This time, I would like to know precisely what you did and what you did not see. Do I make myself perfectly clear? Yes.
Mr. Naruhodo, this is good news. The course of the trial seems to have shifted slightly at last.
Yes. I might finally have a chance to turn things around here. I sure hope so. What the witnesses really saw. There was blood on both hands of the assailant. I sincerely and distinctly remember that. However, I suppose you might say that I didn't see the exact moment the stabbing transpired, if that matters.
I remember seeing the knife, and I remember seeing both of the attacker's hands with blood on them.
I didn't actually see anything myself, no. Not until I heard that scream.
Anyway, the fact remains, there can't have been anyone else inside that carriage, or we all would have seen. Well, lo and behold, in truth of fact, not one of you was witness to the crucial moment of the crime was perpetrated. I apologize, my lord, but honestly, there was no one else inside that carriage and the man's hands were covered in blood. That much incriminating evidence is tantamount to saying we saw the man do it. That's really not what testimony is about. Let us examine the interior of the omnibus once more. The victim's fresh blood is clearly visible on the seat, corroborating the witnesses' accounts. In other words, there is no substantial nor significant change in the facts of the case. Very well. Your cross-examination, please, counsel. Yes, my lord. What the witnesses really saw. There was blood on both hands of the assailant. I sincerely and distinctly remember that. However, I suppose you might say that I didn't see the exact moment the stabbing transpired, if that matters.
I remember seeing the knife, and I remember both of the attackers, seeing both of the attacker's hands with blood on them.
So, what did the knife look like, huh? You definitely saw that too. Blood on both hands.
Yes, sir. I mean, I know what you're going to say. I mean, one of Mr. McGilded's gloves has signs of blood on it.
That's right.
The thing is, as far as I remember, sir, when I looked down and saw Mr. McGilded sitting beside the other fellow, I don't believe he was wearing any gloves, sir.
He wasn't wearing these gloves?
That's correct, sir. And I saw the blood on both of his bare hands quite clearly.
It's true that the dark-colored stain on the dark leather gloves wouldn't have been easy to see. I should point out that the police officer who apprehended the accused on the night in question reported that there was no trace of blood on Mr. McGilded's gloved hands. There wasn't blood on his hands? This is puzzling indeed. This must be significant somehow, I'm sure of it.
Hold it!
You didn't see anything.
Oh, yes, sir. That is to say, no, sir, I didn't. Well, very sorry about what I said before, sir. Very sorry, yes. It was very wrong of me to make up stories and say I saw him stab the man. Wouldn't you agree, sir?
I know what you're insinuating, but I certainly wasn't making up stories. Still, to say you saw nothing isn't right either, is it?
No, sir. I saw nothing at all.
Mr. Beppo, you were driving your horses. At the very least, you must have enjoyed a good view of London streets now. Jeez, you didn't even see that? Well, it was foggy last night, wasn't it?
It was so cold that night, you see. It was all I could do to keep from passing out, sir. Yes, my head was fairly frozen solid, sorry to say, sir.
It would seem prudent to avoid travel on the last omnibus service of London's cold winter nights. Beppo! Ah!
Hold it!
And everything you saw of the incident was through the skylight on the roof of the omnibus? That's right. It was fiercely cold that night, but the glass wasn't frosted over.
Oh yes, I remember I was shivering. It was so bitter.
Which rather begs the question of why the pair of you were sitting on the roof deck in the first place. Well, I don't know about this young fellow, but I couldn't enter the cabin. Oh? Why not? It was locked from the inside. I tried knocking, but no one opened the door. It was locked? That's right, and it's a public bus service, for pity's sake. That's not what I call fair play.
Yes, I had exactly the same experience. I tried knocking, but the gent inside just gestured at me to clear off. So I had no choice but to climb up to the roof deck and look down longingly into the warm cabin below.
Well, I can assure you I wasn't just looking down, I was glaring, long and hard. And that's precisely why I can tell you with absolute confidence that if there was anyone else at all in that cabin, I would have noticed. Unequivocal, I would say. I'm not sure about these two witnesses. Could they really have seen everything inside the cabin through the skylight? Ooh. I'm gonna go with they might not have been able to. Allow me to confirm one thing, Mr. Fairplay. You were riding this omnibus and witnessed the events in the cabin through the skylight in the floor of the upper deck. Is that right? That's right, yes. In that case, there is a portion of the cabin interior that would have been out of sight from you. What?
By golly, really?
Obviously, at this stage, we can't say for sure, but the possibility cannot be denied that at the time of the incident, there could have been another passenger in the enclosed cabin of the omnibus.
Objection!
Enough hypothetical meandering, my Nipponese friend. The prosecution demands that you substantiate your claims. After all, the scene of the crime is here, in the flesh.
Very well. I will uphold the prosecution's demand. You will identify the area on this cross-sectional plan of the omnibus. Where exactly in the omnibus you are suggesting this potential extra passenger could have been situated?
I believe, because if you check the inside of the omnibus itself, just gonna skip through this dialogue that we've already read before. If you check right here, this seat has a handle, it seems. This looks like all sorts of equipment that might be needed to keep the omnibus running.
Feeding tubs, tools to repair wheels, blankets, horseshoeing tools.
So it's a storage compartment for the coachman to keep his things, it seems. There doesn't appear to be any space for passengers to stow their luggage, that's for sure.
Well, I don't imagine it would be very convenient for that purpose anyway.
But yes, I think you could have stowed away in there. I think that's what they're getting at. Not certain, which is why I'm going to go ahead and save. But I feel like that's it.
Take that!
Here, my lord, in this location, an extra passenger could have been completely hidden from view.
Objection!
If you believe that to be true, Counsel, then may I suggest you attempt to conceal yourself there? Sorry? And here's to you never seeing the light of day again. Oh, well, there goes one. Ugh, whatever's in that hollowed chalice, it has a very bitter aftertaste. It pains me to say it, Mr. Naruhodo, but that was, well, bitterly disappointing. Ugh, there's bitterness in the air, it seems.
Huh, perhaps you'd like to reconsider your answer, Counsel.
Where in the omnibus could he have situated? It's probably going to take me a minute. Where exactly in the omnibus are you suggesting that this potential extra passenger could have been situated? There's a portion of the cabin interior that would have been out of sight from you. Through the skylight in the floor of the upper deck. Couldn't he have hidden, like, up here? Because if you look down through the skylight, you'd be able to see diagonally that way and diagonally that way, so you could have maybe hidden here.
Take that! Objection!
That's not it. Going to go ahead and load real quick. This is the first time I've had to do this, but I don't know how long this trial goes, so it's better if I just do it now and get it over with. Where exactly in the omnibus? Are we saying, like, down here underneath? Oh, or are we saying on the ladder back here? You couldn't have seen.
Take that!
Let's try that.
Objection!
That's not it. What the fuck? I don't know, man. Yeah, this one I just don't get. I'm just gonna keep reloading. I'm just gonna keep reloading and guessing over and over again. It says in the omnibus. That's what's throwing me off.
Take that!
What? But he could have turned around, right? Okay, we'll just roll with it. Both rows of seats on the roof face in the direction of travel, whereas the seats in the enclosed cabin face each other, which means the visible part of the cabin, which passengers on the roof deck can see through the skylight, is as I've drawn here. Ah! That's right, my lord. As you can see, the seat opposite the one on which the victim and his attacker were sitting is obscured from view. In other words, if someone had been sitting on that seat, it's quite possible that these witnesses would have been completely unaware of it.
Objection!
It's quite possible some phantom was sitting there. You Nipponese have a forbidding habit of obscuring the truth with ambiguity. concur with the prosecution's rejoinder. In a British court of law, evidence is paramount. I cannot entertain this conjecture, counsel. That is, unless you're able to put a name to this mysterious passenger to whom you allude.
Can you, Mr. Naruhodo?
I honestly don't know. Who could it have been? Who could have been in the other seat, which was out of sight from the witnesses on the roof deck? I mean, honestly, I have no idea. Who could have been in the other seat, which was out of sight from the witnesses on the roof deck? This is probably wrong, but I'm gonna say I have no idea. Ugh, I have literally no idea.
But as a proud citizen of the Japanese Empire, you will look to the sky and walk on, making sure all signs of tears are gone. Go on.
This isn't just a case of going on, Miss Susato. Alright then, I'll go on. The defense would like to put forward a name. You are a fool. That response was a desperate attempt by a man who has no notion of his own limitations. A toast to hard lessons not yet learnt. Let us not delay, counsel. The defense is still to name the passenger in the other seat. This could be it. This could be the chance I've been waiting for to turn the trial in my favor. On that night, on the night of the murder, the person occupying the seat in the omnibus cabin that was obscured from view was... Really? Well, I would have to say it would be Mason, right? Because that was where the stain in the cabin was.
Take that!
Oh, okay. Now I understand what they're getting at here. Yes, concealed in the blind spot of the cabin that night was none other than this unexpected passenger. Whatever so-called logic you use to arrive at that conclusion, it matters not, because your answer has made one thing abundantly clear. The real blind spot is inside your head, and it would appear to be unusually large. Okay, well, fuck you, dude. I hate the fact that they remove the shit when I do that, and then are like, you fucking stupid, bitch. And then they take the penalty after they insult me. It's so annoying.
Mr. Naruhodo, our task here is to defend Mr. McGilded, and we are working on the assumption that he is innocent of this crime.
Yes, of course. Why?
That must mean, then, that there was someone else inside the omnibus with Mr. McGilded, the true culprit.
That's right, exactly what I've been. Oh! So of course, the two people sitting inside the cabin that the witnesses saw through the skylight that night, they were the victim and the real culprit.
It does seem as though we've all been making a false assumption.
The witnesses weren't looking at Mr. McGilded at all, meaning he has to have been sitting somewhere else. Let us not delay, counsel. The defense is still to name the passenger in the other seat. So, it's supposed to be... What they're trying to get me to pick is Mr. McGilded himself so that he wouldn't be there. I see why.
Take that!
Oh, so the music stops on this one. That's why. The passenger in the enclosed cabin that the witnesses on the roof deck failed to see has to have been Mr. Magnus McGilded.
Mr. McGilded?
What are you talking about, counsel? That's the name of the defendant.
Objection!
If I desecrate this chamber by smashing my hollowed chalice, do forgive the discourtesy. Lord Van Zeeks! People talk of those tiny island nations in the Far East as having a learning and culture of their own, but I see they use the terms ill-advisedly. What are you trying to say? Let me explain in terms that even a student of an artless backwater such as yourself might understand. When the bloody scene unfolded, the victim and his assailant were sitting side by side. Multiple witnesses have attested to the fact. It's the very premise on which this case is built.
But that premise may be wrong.
What?
If the victim really was sitting beside Mr. McGilded, it creates an inconsistency that can't be reconciled in any way.
What inconsistency, counsel?
The defendant's gloves, my lord. Both witnesses made the same testimony. They claimed that there was blood on both hands of the person sitting next to the victim.
Objection!
Yet we know the truth to be otherwise. Only one glove bears the gory remains.
The point is, even in the face of this irrefutable evidence, both witnesses have maintained their stance.
Yes, their testimony remains unchanged.
Exactly. They both adamantly swear that they clearly remember seeing blood on both hands of the assailant. In short, their memory of events is correct, and their testimony reveals the truth. It was somebody else sitting beside the victim that night, a third party we have yet to identify. And the victim's blood was on that passenger's hands, both of them.
Objection!
And who was this third party?
Obviously, the true culprit.
Extraordinary! Order! What exactly are you postulating?
Objection!
The defense's postulation is just that, nothing more than conjecture. The witnesses have clearly stated that they saw the accused.
Objection!
But when elaborating on his testimony, Mr. Fairplay said the two of them were wearing hats and I couldn't exactly make out their faces.
Yes. The tops of their heads were obscured by the roof. I could see the rest of them.
Yes, that's right. Both gents were most certainly hatted. Hatters do tend to notice such things, sir.
And what particular styles of hat did the two gentlemen sport, Mr. First?
I'm afraid I don't remember.
You call yourself a hatter?
The style of hat makes no difference. There was no third passenger in that cabin.
How can you be sure?
Because if there had been, the accused Mr. McGilded would undoubtedly have offered to depose the fact. Unless, that is, you are proposing an even more preposterous explanation? That the accused failed to notice even the presence of the true culprit in the very cabin in which he traveled?
Ah! He's right. If there was another person traveling in the enclosed cabin of the omnibus, it's inconceivable that Mr. McGilded would have been unaware of it.
Order! There is clearly a simple solution to this problem. Bring the accused, Mr. McGilded, to the stand. Well, what say you, counsel? The prosecution objects, my lord. On what grounds? As a suspect, he will have already made a full statement to the police.
But what if there's some reason why he's unable to speak freely?
Magnus McGilded is no uneducated ruffian. If it indeed turns out the man has been withholding information, you can be sure it will have been a most deliberate act.
Counsel for the defense, what is your opinion? My lord, should we ask Mr. McGilded to testify or not? Of course we should get his testimony. Yes, we need to hear what he has to say in order to find out the truth. The defense would like to call Mr. McGilded to the stand.
In that case, I would like to hear the opinion of the jury. Yes, I need a little time to consider this.
If you ask me, I think we should hear what Mr. McGilded has to say. Get the man out here, I say. It would be utterly illogical not to hear his testimony.
When something needs doing, get it done. That's how I run things at the guild.
Hearing what the patron of my favorite little park has to say? Oh yes, that would be lovely.
Yes, the jury says this man must be heard.
Very well, the court will hear the defendant's testimony. Bailiff, show the defendant to the stand at once.
And we will get to see his testimony in the next episode. This is definitely a shorter episode compared to the others, but I feel like this is probably the best stopping point I'm going to get. So yeah, going through the motions here. Not sure exactly how close we're getting to the truth, but we're getting there at some point. So yeah, thank you guys very much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next part where we cross-examine